The Restoration Room. Kingdom Conversations, Unfiltered Truth.
Welcome to the Restoration Room, a space for honest conversations about faith, identity, and leadership, where real stories are shared and lessons are explored. Today's conversation is centered around discipline and consistency. Not the kind that looks good for a moment, but the kind that is built daily, quietly, repeatedly, through small acts of obedience that no one sees. The truth is, lasting change doesn't come from big moments. It is built in what a man does consistently. And that is what we are getting into today. There's a lie that many people have believed for a long time, that one moment will change everything. One church conference, one good biblical message, one emotional experience. But if we're being honest, most people have had moments like that. Moments where they felt inspired, motivated, ready to change. And yet a few days later, they are back in the same patterns, the same habits, the same cycles. So the question is, if moments are most powerful, why don't they produce lasting change? That's because events do not change a man. Obedience does. Small, consistent, unseen obedience. That's what builds a man. Not what happens once, but what happens daily. Are you praying daily? Are you serving daily? Are you putting God at the center of it all daily? Transformation is not emotional. It's behavioral. It is built in what you do when you don't feel like doing it. When you're too tired to pray, when you're too overwhelmed to serve. It's built in the decisions no one sees, the quiet moments, the disciplined choices, the consistency over time. Many people struggle though, because consistency is not exciting. It's repetitive, it's quiet, it's often unnoticed. There's no applause for discipline, there's no spotlight for consistency. But that's exactly where growth happens, in the unseen, and even though no one sees, God does. The reality is that everyone wants the results, but very few people want the routine. Everyone wants to be trusted with more, but not everyone is willing to be faithful with what they already have. There's a simple principle that says, what you do consistently is what you become. Not what you intend, not what you feel, but what you do. And this applies in every area of your life. Your discipline, your prayer life, your tithing, your offering, your habits, your responsibilities, and even in the small things. The small things is the training ground, training for what you say you want. You say you want more responsibility, you want more influence, you want more opportunities, but are you consistent with what is already in your hands? Sometimes the reason many people never step into more is not because they lack desire, not because their prayers are not being heard, it's because they lack discipline. Discipline that's proven in daily obedience, not in the big moments. Doing what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. Showing up when it's inconvenient, staying committed when it's uncomfortable, being consistent when it's boring. Discipline is what builds capacity, and without the capacity, you cannot sustain growth. You cannot sustain success. You cannot sustain your godly purpose. If you are not disciplined to build, you will not be able to maintain. And that's where the conversation shifts. So discipline is not just about self-improvement, it's about trust. Can God trust you with more? Not based on your potential, but based on your consistency. How you handle small things reveals how you'll handle big things. Many people want increase, but they are not consistent in the basics. I've heard people mention that they cannot tithe because of their affordability, yet they are dependent on God for increase in their lives. God is waiting for you to show Him He can trust you with the little so that He can give you more. You need to stay consistent in your habits, in your commitments, in your prayer life. Inconsistency creates instability, and instability cannot carry the weight. So the question is not, do you want more? The question is, are you consistent with what God has already given you? Because the man you are becoming is not being built in big moments. He's being built in small, repeated decisions, the daily ones, the quiet ones, the consistent ones. And joining me today in the room, I have a special guest, a man who has made an impact in my life. Not in a big noisy way, but in a very subtle way without him realizing it. He's a visionary leader, a generational architect, and a founder of the Bee Theory, which is a kingdom-driven initiative dedicated to shaping faith-filled, creative, and legacy-conscious leaders. He's a devoted husband, he's a father, he's a legacy builder, and he's the author of Why I Want to Be a Millionaire, Wealth with Purpose, a Kingdom Perspective. It's an honor to have this conversation with you today, Mr. B. Welcome, sir.
Good day, viewers. My name is Tere'al Bee, and Keanu, thank you for having me today on your show.
Thanks for being here today. So to jump right into it, what does discipline look like in a man's everyday life beyond just productivity or routines?
So discipline is what is right even when you don't feel like doing it. So it's always doing the right thing even when you don't feel like doing it. It's training yourself to choose principles over impulse. So as a man, in order to get where you want to be, no matter what you are going through, no matter the lack of resources, no matter the circumstances, even when you feel tired, when you feel drained, the discipline it's like your fuel that keeps you going to get to where you want to be in life.
So it basically comes down to motivation versus discipline. Because I can feel motivated today to do everything in my power, and then tomorrow, because I lack motivation, I just don't feel like doing anything. So yeah, it focuses around that. So why would you say many men start strong, but then they struggle to stay consistent once that emotion fades?
Because when you do something with emotion, it doesn't mean that you will push through it. So emotion is a feeling. So when you do something with emotion, you will obviously, when say for instance, you need money to do something and you don't have the money, immediately you go into a phase of, is this thing really for me? So that's part of an emotion. But if you really want something in life, whether you feel low, whether you feel high, you have to build a disciplined lifestyle to say that no matter what I don't have, I will still have to push myself to get to where I need to be in life. So sometimes men in a space where they feel like, is this really good for me? Is this really what I want in life? There's two things that you need to understand. Is that the first thing is doing something with emotion will never get you where you need to be. But doing something because you really want to do it and make a change in someone's life, that is when you push yourself beyond the limits. So most men has to come away from doing something when I'm sad, doing something when I'm happy, doing something when I'm angry. Discipline builds you and consistency. So consistency can't be without discipline. And you can't have discipline without consistency. So it's hand in glove. It's like having hope and faith. You can't have hope and not have faith, or you can't have faith and not have hope. So everything that you want to do, it needs to be on how do I change what I want to do in life.
Interesting. And for the viewers and from your perspective, what anchors consistency when motivation is no longer there?
Hey, trying to get this is, the first thing is identity. This is who I am. It's not just what I feel. So your identity speaks of consistency. It's what holds you together. It's your identity. Who am I? Your values is the second one. Anchoring yourself basically as a kingdom person in God's word, and obviously in the mission that you have been given. The third one is systems. What systems are you building in life? That small repeatable habits, you understand? That small habits that you do on a daily basis. What is it that you are doing? As an example, what are you doing? Say for instance, you want to build a life of prayer, right? Will you be like a Daniel that prays 3 times a day, even if all odds is against you? Even if the king tells you, I don't want you to pray for 3 times. But you still do it because why? You are building consistency. So that is your anchor. Your anchor has to be something that says, I want to grow. And when I grow, I must not get weary in doing good, as the word says.
And how can a man build real consistency? When life is busy, life can get unpredictable. We have a lot of pressures going on in life. How can we build that real consistency in our lives?
So consistency is anchored in values and not in moods.
Ooh.
So building consistency under pressure is life is busy and unpredictable, but discipline thrives in systems, not in moods, as I mentioned. So practical example that you can use is anchor your day with non-negotiables. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to do this, whether I'm sick, whether I'm tired, whether I'm weary, whether there's no resources, you must anchor yourself in that. If you say, every day I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock. Whether you're tired, you must wake up at 5 o'clock. Whether you're sick, you must wake up at 5 o'clock. Whether you feel like, or you tell yourself, I want to go to the gym, or you tell yourself, I want to diet, or you tell yourself, I want to start reading. Every day you have to set yourself up for that specific time and say, that's the small part that I want to do, but it leads to larger results, basically.
And it takes me back to what I said also, that discipline over that motivation. What is the link between a man's private discipline and the results that we see in his public life?
So, who can I use as an example? Let's use David. David's private worship prepared him for public battles. So what he did in the private prepared him to be able to fight public battles. Nobody saw David fight the lion and the bear. But what they saw was he conquered the giant, which was Goliath. So what you do in the private will automatically help you build public results. So most of the time, we don't want to do anything in private, but then we want public results. So what you do, if you really want to achieve your goal, your dream, your vision, whatever you want to put in life, you have to start in the private. It's in those moments when nobody sees what you are doing. It's in those moments where you cry. It's in those moments where you build. It's in those moments where you feel like everything is against me, but nobody can see it. But they don't know that those are the moments that actually prepares you to become publicly strong and become whatever you need to become in life.
So, sometimes we do fall into inconsistency. We do lack a little bit of discipline. So how would you say, if someone has fallen into that inconsistency, how do they then rebuild without falling into guilt or without quitting altogether?
So falling is not failure, right? It's staying down is.
Yeah.
So you can fall, but as the Bible says in Proverbs 24:16, though a righteous man falls 7 times, they rise again. Do you understand? So though you fall, you need to rise up again. So rebuilding requires humility. Small steps in grace, but not with guilt. So guilt drains energy, but grace restores it. So restart with one discipline, not 10. So most of the time we think when we fail, you have to start from big. You understand? Start at the top again. No, you start small and eventually you start building. You start building. But the main answer there is when you fail, you have to start small, but don't stay down. When you stay down, that is when you allow yourself to actually lead into that failure. You need to rise above that and tell yourself, yes, I failed. Yes, I made my mistakes. Yes, I didn't do it what I had to do. But now I'm getting back up again.
And then looking at your own life, what is one discipline that has shaped you the most? And why would you say?
So what has shaped me the most, basically, I'm not going to lie, is the Word of God. Right? So I said to myself, I have to build a daily routine. So my daily routine consists of waking up at 4:30 every day, getting into the shower, pray, do my devotion. You understand? Read my word. That builds consistency and that builds discipline. So I said to myself, if I can do this on a daily basis, no matter what I'm going through, automatically it will lead me into doing something else. So that's how I build my discipline.
And then just lastly, to jump into a little bit of why I want to be a millionaire, and just to give our viewers, some sort of what to expect from this book. You'll discover why God calls his children to wealth. You'll discover the difference between worldly riches and kingdom stewardship. You'll discover how poverty mindsets sabotage your purpose. You'll also discover the biblical truths that unlock financial freedom. And lastly, how to be a blessing, not just to be blessed. I just want to quickly ask you, and as we're ending off, how did you stay disciplined to finish writing your book? How did you get to a point in your life where you said, you know what, I'm locking in now. People need to hear this. People need to know why it is important and why wealth with a purpose as a kingdom perspective is as important as general wealth overall.
Oh, that was a lot of questions.
It's just one. How did you stay disciplined? Let's just keep it there.
Let's keep it there.
Yeah.
Right. So I said that discipline is not about perfection. Right. So when I wrote this book, I discovered that as a believer of Jesus Christ, as a believer in the kingdom of God, the church needs to exactly know why God calls his children to wealth. And I said to myself, if I can complete this book, I need to get it out there, because there's many people out there that doesn't really understand why God calls his children to wealth. There was days, and I'll be honest, there was days where I felt like, is it really worth it to write this book? Is it really worth it for me to get it out there? Because there was days where I felt like I'm running out of words. I don't know what to write. But God always came and gave me a push. And I must recommend this. There's someone that I married, my wife, that pushed me and said, you have to stay disciplined, because there's someone out there that needs to hear this book, that needs to read this book, and the audio books will come out, that needs to listen to this book. This book has to go to the world. And I said, God, you have given me this vision. You have to help me complete it. And when you have a vision, when God gives you a vision, sometimes we think that the vision is for you, but it's not for you.
Yeah.
It's for someone else.
Yeah.
And I said, God, this vision you have given me is for someone else. So in order for me to complete this book, you are going to have to help me. There's late nights, early mornings, and I just had to continue pushing myself to get where I had to be.
And I must say, this book has changed the perspective for me also. And as I mentioned in one of our previous shows, where I said, not all of us are called to be pastors or ministers or that. Some of us are called to be kingdom financiers. I said to you, I picked this book up in one day and I read it finished. When I put it down, I was done with this book. So that's the power that this book has. And I would also encourage you, if you would like to, I'll leave the details in the description, where you can get on the website. You can go and you can buy a book for yourself, or you can bless someone with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
I want you to sit with what was just said for a moment, because I think a lot of us have been waiting for the right moment, the right feeling, the right environment to finally become who we know we're supposed to be. But the truth is, this conversation just handed you this. The moment is now. Not when life calms down, not when things feel right. Now, with what you have in the season that you are already in. Discipline is not about being hard on yourself. It's about deciding that who you are becoming matters more than how you feel today. To my guest, Mr. Tere'al Bee, thank you. You didn't just talk about discipline today. You modeled it by showing up and giving us everything. And that is what this show is about. And to every person listening, take the challenge. Identify one thing, commit to 90 days, do it whether you feel like doing it or not, and watch what God does with the person who decides to be faithful in private. This is the Restoration Room. Like, share, comment, and if you have any questions, we'll deal with them in the comment section. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.
Thank you for watching. If this conversation challenged you, take something from it and apply it this week. Like, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more real conversations.